Hi, 你好, welcome to my channel. In the previous episode, or part 1, we discussed from diplomatic perspective why China has not provided military support to Iran amid US and Israel strikes, because China's foreign policy is cooperation-oriented instead of confrontation-driven. Quite some people think that China's military system is not working well and is just a paper tiger. That is the reason why China has no courage to enter the war.
One of the things that we've seen here is Chinese technology going into the proving ground of battle and actually not doing that great. We've seen Chinese ships that were heavily dependent on Chinese technology now at the bottom of the ocean. We've seen Chinese air defense systems that, as one person said, work by blowing up when there's a missile near them. Is this showing that the Chinese military may be a bit more of a paper tiger than we had thought or feared?
Yes, absolutely.
Still, many people are doubting that China is wasting enormous resources to keep such a big size of military force but not using it. So, in this episode, we are trying to analyze China's position in this conflict from a military perspective. So here I have a book at my hand, 7 military classics of ancient China. The first of which is The Art of War by Sun Tzu, over 2,500 years back. I would say that the stance taken by the Chinese government towards Iran conflict is much in line with Chinese ancient wisdom. The ancient Chinese strategists view war to a nation like this: 国虽大，好战必亡；天下虽安，妄战必危。In English translation, no matter how strong a state is, it will perish if it loves war. No matter how peaceful the world is, a state will be in peril if it forgets war. So ancient Chinese strategists stress that a state should value martial spirit but never belligerence, no warfare but never crave war, because militarism will inevitably deplete national resources, lose people's support, and invite foreign threat, and therefore such a state cannot sustain long. That is why the ancient Chinese military philosophy advocates defense first and striking only after being struck, which is largely reflected in the Great Wall that the ancient Chinese people built to defend themselves from the invasions by the northern nomadics like Turks and Mongolians. The current government of China also pursues a defensive national defense policy and does not seek military expansion or hegemony. Therefore, providing military assistance to Iran would deviate from this defensive orientation. Based on the above understanding about the war to a state, the ancient Chinese are very cautious about launching a war or joining a war. In the opening of The Art of War, it is clearly stated that 兵者，国之大事，死生之地，存亡之道，不可不察也。In English translation, it means war is a matter of vital importance to a state. It is ground of life and death for soldiers. It is the path to survival or extinction for a state, and which should be thoroughly examined. There is one chapter in The Art of the War dedicated on how to win a war through different levels of strategies. The first and the best warfare is to disrupt your enemy's plans, 上兵伐谋, to uproot the causes of the war. The art of the war states that the supreme art of the war is to subdue your enemy without fighting. 不战而屈人之兵，善者善者也。The next strategy is to disrupt your enemy's alliances, 其次伐交. China is not a party of this conflict, therefore it has done little in this regard. But interestingly, the United States itself has been consistently damaging its own alliances, for example, by imposing the universal tariff against the whole world, including the West, its major allies, and by threatening to take over Canada and Greenland. Furthermore, the US has not consulted its allies for any consensus before launching these strikes. Therefore, it is expectable the United States will face refusals or negative responses when it is requesting its allies for the support regarding the route of shipment through the Strait of Hormuz. The third strategy is to use armed force against the enemy, 其次发兵, and the fourth and the worst is to attack your enemy's fortified cities, which should be the last resort. 下阵攻城，攻城之法为不得已. These two scenarios have to be avoided for a warring state. Later on, China in this case is not part of this conflict. Now let's have a summary about the discussion or analysis of this episode. The ancient Chinese strategists stress gaining the whole world rather than a single city.
First, China began its energy transition on electric vehicles in a much more significant and earlier way than most. Second, China has alternative fuels. They don't want to have to use as much coal as they're going to have to use, but they can turn to coal if they need to replace, oil and gas. And third, China can negotiate with Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is not closed absolutely right now. It's closed to whom the Iranians say it's closed. And if the Iranians and the Chinese can come to an agreement, then the Chinese are going to get some of that oil and gas coming through the strait. So on a relative basis, China is doing better than basically anyone else in the region.
In the case of Iran conflict, China considers the overall situation of the regional and world peace. China's support has been diplomatically robust, but militarily non-interventionist. It has not chosen a direct military support or formal military alliance, but focused on a peaceful settlement narrative that aligns with its core national interests to achieve its broader and longer ultimate goal, that is, peaceful rise of a great nation, without falling in the so-called Thucydides trap. This is in the best interest of not only the Chinese people, but the whole world, because in human history, there should be no another world war again. Thank you for watching. If you feel interested, please kindly click like and leave your comments and suggestions. I will try to get back to you at my earliest convenience. You are also most welcome to subscribe the channel and share the channel with your relatives and friends. See you next time.